Thanks so much, Jess. I asked Jess to mention my dogs just in case you hear them barking. Please know that they are just supporting me. Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm honored to be presenting on behalf of the ATESL Advocacy Group. As Jess said, my name is Donna. I'm Donna Clarke, and I am the newly launched, as of April 1st, Literacy Center of Expertise lead for Calgary. I have worked at the school for 10 years now, and I've taught all literacy levels. And I'm super lucky to work at a school that has a dedicated literacy program. So we teach from Literacy Foundation up to Literacy 4, as well as the regular streamed CLB students. So we have 10 students per class, and we have full-time classes and part-time literacy classes. At the end of this presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about the Literacy Center of Expertise. But for now, that's all I'll mention till we get to the end. And today I am going to present a low-level literacy housing theme that adheres to PBLA, which is one of the biggest challenges that we've had since we started teaching online. As Jess said, she's here today to read the chat and see if there's any technical issues that are happening. And I've also got Jeremy Wilson moderating with me here today. He is the Literacy Center of Expertise assistant and my teaching partner. So any of the things that I mentioned that you have questions about, we'll try and get the answers to in the chat by Jeremy. But if we haven't addressed any of those, then we'll address them at the end of the presentation. I just am not even going to look at the chat while I'm presenting because it's just asking me to multitask too much. I'm just going to focus on my presentation. So I hope to present for about 45 or 50 minutes and leave some time at the end for questions and answers. So why don't we get started? Here we are. So this is the agenda. These are the things that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to make a few acknowledgements about what's happening around us and in the world, and tell you some of the assumptions I base my planning on. I'm going to show you the thematic needs assessment and the module needs assessment that we do at TIES that is standardized for us, and how I've modified that to teach it online. I'm going to show you the first page of my 5-page module plan, and following PBLA prescriptives, I will then introduce to you my real-world task assessments, planning with the end in mind, and then introduce a few online activities, and then introduce the Literacy Center of Expertise and tell you what our mandate is and make you a few offers. Okay. Next slide. So I promise this is my wordiest slide that's happening. Most of them have pictures and stuff. We haven't only just converted to online teaching, and we're not just doing distance teaching. I would like to acknowledge that we are in a pandemic here. It seems pretty obvious, but sometimes I think it has to be said. People may be experiencing PTSD. In the last 2 months, I myself have only been out about 5 times, and I think it's a scary world out there. So I can't even imagine how some of my students might be triggered from their past trauma and be experiencing PTSD at a level much higher than I am. I think we've missed an opportunity here in Calgary anyways. There's been no agreement upon delivery platform between service providers, and I think that's unfortunate. If we weren't in a pandemic and everything wasn't crazy, maybe we could have got together and decided, okay, let's use this platform, and then we could share all our expertise and training and knowledge. That isn't the case in most places, and most of the webinars I've gone to, people are all using different platforms and different ways of presenting to their students online. maybe in the future we can make some of those decisions together and cooperate. A few people have mastery over online platforms, and I may be projecting a little bit here because I certainly don't have mastery over online platforms. Uh, I was very unfamiliar with a lot of the things that I'm using now, and this is my first time on Big Blue Button, so I was a little bit nervous about that. But we are using all sorts of technology now and learning along with our students, and that can be really challenging. As we know, and I'm sure we've all experienced, technical issues can interrupt learning. So internet speed, access to internet, computers, phones, telephones ringing, things happening all over. And they do have an impact on learning, and they usually slow it down a little bit. But we're doing it, as everyone is. So family responsibilities and lack of childcare can interrupt learning for both students and teachers. And we need to acknowledge this. And I know when I started teaching online, I didn't really like muting all my students. Classroom management is a whole different body when you're doing it online. I've gotten quite comfortable now actually muting my students, and they have control over that as well. So they're able to mute themselves and understand when it's happening. There's clear rules around that. And our literacy learners do face multiple barriers to learning. And this is just yet another obstacle for our students to overcome. And we're doing it the best we can. And I think they are getting good service. So, and last but not least, if you try to do this alone, you'll never sleep. So collaboration is the key to success for online teaching, and I'd like to suggest that it's also the key to success on in-class learning. So we're very lucky. I'm very lucky at TIES that we have a strong management team that's done a lot of the research and the behind-the-scenes work to help us get up to the position that we are now. Okay. So I'll tell you what we're doing, and this is sort of one of the assumptions I'm going to be making here. We are doing synchronous classes with online conferencing. So we're using Zoom. We made a decision to use Zoom after some research by our management. And I must tell you that I was quite skeptical at the beginning. I'm like, these foundation students can't get on Zoom. We're asking them to do the impossible. We're never going to do it. They don't have computers. They don't have the right apps downloaded and such. But I was happily proven wrong. We have managed to get all of our students up and on Zoom. Every single one of our students, including our Literacy Foundation students. So that's not without the help of our IT department, which is great, and our coordinators and supervisors and managers all helping out with those technical issues. And yes, we are doing synchronous classes. So that means the full-time teachers are online continuously with the students on Zoom as a group, 5.75 hours a day for full-time, with a lunch break and a coffee break. And our part-time classes are online continuously together for 3 hours. And it's actually, I have found, less tiring than the first week when we were doing one-on-one individually with the student. The whole class allows the students still to be part of a community and feel a little bit less isolated in these times. And we seem to have come a long way since 2 months ago when we started this. So I'm assuming that you have access to some online conferencing. It can be done. I know that there's challenges with it. We have made homemade videos. Jeremy Wilson, on behalf of the Literacy Center of Expertise, made a video on how to download Zoom on your Android phone, how to download it on your iPhone, and how to downloaded on your computer. These are made understanding the student challenges, and they're nice and slow and guide the students along carefully. Some students, it takes a few days before we actually achieve success, but we do, and it's manageable, and I highly advise it and recommend it. Okay, so here's part of the standardization that we've done with PBLA at TIES. This is our thematic needs assessment. This is a picture of a piece of paper that I would in class use, but I certainly wouldn't just present it to the students in class, and I wouldn't just present it to the students online. What I do is we give the students 4 options of a theme to start with at the lower level. We give them a few more options at the higher level. So I would introduce these words here. We've got school and housing and doctor and food. And I would put up a picture. The modifications I would do online is that I would show a picture. We would do some TPR and some actions, and I might say, okay, what is school? And they put up their hand. What is house? And they put a roof over their head. What is doctor? And they're sick. And what is food? And they're eating. So I'd make sure that they have a little bit of understanding of these words based on the pictures. And then I would ask them what they are interested in studying. Now, this is super challenging in the classroom or online. The students don't really understand what do you want to study? What do you need to study? What would you like to study? Even what do you like? Sometimes students just choose the word that they're familiar with, or something that they already know, or something that they've already learned. So this is where we might use some translators from higher level groups to come in and help the students understand this concept of want. It's also quite a foreign concept for students who have had really traditional education, or for those who've had no education at all. They're like, no, not me, teacher, you decide. They want the teacher to decide. But this certainly is part of PBLA. And we are introducing this concept of voting and giving the students voice and helping them to understand that their choices matter. So it's a difficult concept, and they get it better and better and better as they move up the levels, but we're introducing it at this level, and they require quite a bit of support for this. I was at a webinar yesterday, and someone said they do polls in their Zoom. So I thought, after you've done a lot of discussion and talking, if you have a higher level literacy class, you could do a poll in Zoom, but that's heavily reliant on them being able to read the poll, which isn't always necessarily the case. So what I would do online with my students is talk about it and ask them to put their hand up if that's a topic that they want to study. If it's particularly difficult for a student, then what I might do is get into a breakout room with them and try and help them to understand, and maybe get a family member to help as well. In class, I'll show you the next slide here. In class, the students actually have this piece of paper, and after everyone has voted and decided what they want to study, the students take this paper around and ask their classmates, what 3 topics did you choose? And then they color it in so that they have a bar graph, and they can see visually what is more and what is less. For online teaching, however, I am doing this paper for them and just sharing it with them. But this is an opportunity also to visit numeracy as well. So we're counting 1, 2, 3, and they're repeating, and they're showing me with their fingers as well. And we are doing things like ripping pieces of paper into 9, 10, 11 different pieces, and counting out the 9 pieces and comparing it to the 2 or the 3 pieces of paper. So we're working on some numeracy skills as well. So what we've decided here is we've decided what theme we are going to talk about. And what we're going to do with that is celebrate, because we've made a decision together. This slide always makes me laugh. And it probably would make my students laugh, and we'd probably have a big discussion about men with long hair, because they wouldn't believe me that these are men necessarily. So in class, when we've decided, we use song a lot, and maybe we would celebrate our choice with a song. And I would sometimes I'll play both songs and get them to tell me which one they like and which one they don't like.